Dr. Sarah Chen pressed her face against the thick glass porthole of the research submarine Times Deep Explorer **. The darkness outside was complete, broken only by the sub's powerful lights cutting through the black water. At this depth, nearly 8,000 meters below the Pacific Ocean's surface, no sunlight had ever touched these waters. "Sonar contact dead ahead," called out Marcus Rodriguez, the sub's pilot. His weathered hands gripped the controls with practiced ease. "Something big, Doc." "Really big?" Sarah's heart raced. After 3 years of searching based on the strange readings from the deep-sea sensors, they might finally have found what they were looking for. The readings had been impossible to explain. Metallic signatures that didn't match any known geological formations. Energy patterns that made no sense. "Can you get us closer?" Sarah asked, adjusting her headset. "Already on it," Marcus replied. The submarine's engines hummed as they descended further into the abyss. Dr. James Wright, the team's marine archaeologist, floated over to Sarah's position in the cramped submarine. His excitement was barely contained. "If this is what we think it is, Sarah, this could change everything we know about deep-sea formations." Sarah nodded, but her mind was racing with possibilities far beyond simple geological discoveries. The energy readings they detected were unlike anything natural. They pulsed with a rhythm that seemed almost deliberate, almost like a heartbeat. "Visual contact in 30 seconds, Marcus announced. The 3 scientists crowded around the viewing ports. Even their experienced pilot seemed tense as the submarine's lights began to illuminate something massive ahead. "Dear God," whispered James. Rising from the ocean floor like a metallic mountain was a structure unlike anything they had ever seen. It wasn't the random shapes of underwater rock formations or the familiar lines of a sunken ship. This was clearly artificial, but its design was completely alien to human engineering. The structure stretched for what looked like several kilometers, its surface covered in strange geometric patterns that seemed to shift and flow in the submarine's lights. Despite being covered in thousands of years of ocean sediment, the metallic surface underneath gleamed with an unnatural sheen. "Marcus, can you take us around the perimeter?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. As they circled the massive object, its true shape became clear. It was a spacecraft, but one designed by minds that thought very differently from humans. Where human spacecraft were built with straight lines and functional angles, this vessel flowed like liquid metal frozen in time. Its hull curved and twisted in ways that seemed to defy physics, yet somehow looked perfectly natural. "Look at the size of this thing," James breathed. "It's got to be at least 3 kilometers long." Sarah was taking rapid notes, her trained scientific mind trying to process what she was seeing. "The metal composition is unlike anything in our periodic table. See how it reflects light? It's almost like it's generating its own illumination." "Could be some kind of bioluminescent coating," James suggested, but his voice lacked conviction. Marcus brought the submarine to a hover near what appeared to be a large opening in the vessel's side. The opening was perfectly circular, about 50 meters across, and seemed to lead deep into the ship's interior. "That looks like an airlock," Sarah observed. "Or at least some kind of entry port." "You thinking what I think you're thinking?" Marcus asked, glancing back at the scientists. Sarah and James exchanged looks. They all knew that protocol demanded they return to the surface, report their findings, and wait for a full research team. But they also knew that once word of this discovery got out, the site would be swarmed with government officials, military personnel, and international committees. They might never get another chance for a clean, scientific first look. "The opening is large enough for our sub," Sarah said slowly. "Sarah," James warned, "we don't know anything about the structural integrity of that vessel. It could collapse on us." "Look at it, James. After sitting on the ocean floor for who knows how long, it's still intact. Whatever built this used materials far stronger than anything we have." Marcus was studying his instruments. "I'm reading some kind of energy source from inside. Very faint, but it's there. This thing might not be as dead as it looks." The implications sent a chill down Sarah's spine. If there was still power in this vessel after presumably thousands of years underwater, what else might still be functioning? "We go in just long enough for a quick survey," Sarah decided, 30 minutes maximum. If we see anything dangerous, we leave immediately. Marcus nodded and carefully maneuvered the submarine toward the opening. As they approached, the team noticed that the edges of the circular entrance were lined with symbols that definitely weren't from any human language. The symbols seemed to glow faintly in their lights. "Are you recording all of this?" Sarah asked James. "Every second," he confirmed, adjusting the submarine's external cameras. They passed through the opening and found themselves in a vast chamber filled with water. Their lights revealed corridors leading off in multiple directions, all with the same flowing, organic design as the exterior. "The water is crystal clear in here," Marcus observed. "No marine growth. No sediment. It's like the ship is somehow keeping itself clean." Sarah directed him toward the largest corridor, which seemed to lead toward the center of the vessel. As they moved deeper, the submarine's sensors began picking up stronger energy readings. "Whatever's generating power in this thing is getting closer," Marcus reported. The corridor opened into an enormous central chamber that took their breath away. The space was so large their lights couldn't reach the far walls. In the center of the chamber stood something that defied description. It was a crystalline structure, roughly spherical, about 20 meters in diameter. The crystal pulsed with internal light, cycling through colors that had no names in human language. Around the sphere, dozens of smaller crystals floated in perfect formation, rotating slowly in complex patterns. "It's beautiful," James whispered, but Sarah was focused on the readings from their instruments. "Guys, this thing is putting out more energy than a small nuclear reactor, and it's been doing it for a very long time." As they watched, one of the smaller crystals broke from its orbit and drifted toward their submarine. Sarah and James instinctively backed away from the viewing ports. But Marcus held steady. "It's not moving aggressively," he observed. "It's like it's curious about us." The crystal came to rest just outside their submarine, hovering motionlessly. Then, without warning, the submarine's communication system crackled to life. The sound that came through wasn't exactly speech, but it wasn't random noise either. It was complex, layered, almost musical. After a few moments, the sounds began to change, becoming more structured, more familiar. "Is it trying to communicate?" James asked. Sarah was frantically adjusting their equipment. "It's learning from our radio transmissions. Look at the patterns. It's analyzing our language in real time." The alien communication suddenly shifted to something that sounded almost like words, though heavily distorted. The voice, if it could be called that, was neither male nor female, but something entirely other. "Welcome, visitors, from above." The three humans stared at each other in shock. They were listening to first contact with an alien intelligence, and it was happening 8 kilometers under the ocean. "We have waited so long," the voice continued, becoming clearer with each word. Sarah overcame her shock first. She leaned toward their communication system and spoke slowly and clearly. "Hello. We are humans from the surface world. Can you understand us?" "Understand. Yes. We learn. Quick. Your thoughts. Bright. Warm." "Who are you?" Sarah asked. "What is this place?" "We were keepers of the deep places, but we are few now, very few." The floating crystal pulsed brighter, and suddenly the chamber around them was filled with light. Other crystals began emerging from alcoves in the walls. Dozens of them, all moving in the same graceful patterns. "How long have you been here?" James asked. "Time flows different in the deep. Your star has circled many thousands since we came." Sarah felt a chill. These beings had been here for millennia, waiting in the depths while human civilization rose on the surface. "Why did you come to our world?" she asked. The pause that followed was long enough that they wondered if the connection had been lost. When the voice returned, it carried a weight of sadness that transcended species. We fled. The darkness between stars. But it follows, always follows. What darkness? Sarah pressed. They who consume worlds. They who turn life to emptiness. They come to all worlds. Eventually, Marcus looked at Sarah with concern. Sarah, we should probably head back up. People need to know about this. But the alien voice spoke again before Sarah could respond. You must prepare your people. The darkness has found your world. They come soon. The central crystal suddenly blazed with brilliant light, and images began appearing in the water around them. Not projected images, but somehow formed from the water itself. They showed vast fleets of dark ships moving between stars, worlds being stripped of all life, entire civilizations vanishing into empty space. This is what's coming? Sarah asked, her voice tight with fear. Already. They probe your system. Your people must be ready, or all will be lost. As our world was lost. The images shifted to show Earth from space. But it wasn't the blue-green world they knew. It was gray and lifeless. Its oceans empty. Its continents barren. How long do we have? James asked. Not long. Perhaps one of your years. Maybe less. Sarah's mind raced. A year to prepare humanity for an alien invasion that had destroyed an advanced civilization. It seemed impossible. Can you help us? She asked. We will try, but we are weak now. Our power fades. Our people few. The crystal dimmed slightly, and Sarah could sense the exhaustion in the alien presence. We have gifts, knowledge, weapons that might help. Your people must want to learn. They will, Sarah said firmly. Humans are good at adapting, at surviving. We'll find a way. You have hope. Strong hope. This is good. Hope is weapon against darkness. The floating crystal began moving back toward the central formation, but the voice continued. Return to surface. Bring others who can understand. We will wait as we have waited. We'll be back, Sarah promised, with help. Be careful who you trust. The darkness has eyes everywhere, even among your own. With that ominous warning, the alien presence faded. The chamber dimmed back to its previous low light level, and the floating crystals settled back into their eternal dance around the central sphere. Marcus was already turning the submarine around. We need to get to the surface now. This is way beyond a marine archaeology expedition. As they retraced their path through the alien corridors, Sarah's mind was already working on the next steps. They would need to contact the right people in the scientific community, people who could be trusted with information this critical. The military would have to be involved, but carefully. If the aliens were right about having enemies among humanity, they would need to be very selective about who they told. The submarine emerged from the alien vessel and began its long ascent toward the surface. Behind them, the mysterious spacecraft settled back into silence, its guardians waiting for humanity's return with whatever help they could bring. Sarah looked back at the fading lights of the alien ship and felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. Humanity's survival might depend on what they did in the next few days. She only hoped they would be ready for what was coming. The research vessel Times Horizon's Edge Times bobbed gently on the Pacific swells as the Times Deep Explorer Times submarine breached the surface. Sarah Chen watched the crane operators carefully lift their sub from the water, her mind still reeling from everything they had discovered 8 kilometers below. Captain Elena Vasquez met them at the submarine bay. Her weathered face showed concern as she saw the expressions of the 3-person team. "Dr. Chen, you look like you've seen a ghost. What did you find down there?" Sarah exchanged glances with Marcus and James. They had agreed on the way up that they needed to be extremely careful about who they trusted with this information. "We need to speak privately, Captain, and we need to contact Director Harrison at the Marine Research Institute immediately." 20 minutes later, Sarah stood in the ship's secure communication room, facing the screen that displayed Director Harrison's concerned face. Captain Vasquez had agreed to give them privacy after Sarah had convinced her that this was a matter of global security. "Tom, what I'm about to tell you is going to sound completely impossible," Sarah began. "But I need you to trust me. Marcus and James can confirm everything I'm saying." Director Harrison had worked with Sarah for 8 years. He knew she wasn't given to wild theories or imagination. "Go ahead, Sarah. You have my attention." Sarah took a deep breath and launched into their story. She described the alien vessel, the crystal beings, and most importantly, the warning about the coming invasion. By the time she finished, Harrison's face had gone pale. "Sarah, do you understand what you're asking me to believe?" I understand completely," Sarah replied. "That's why we recorded everything. I'm transmitting the data now." For the next hour, Harrison reviewed the submarine's recordings. The footage was clear and undeniable. The alien vessel was real, and the communication with its guardians had been recorded in perfect detail. "My God," Harrison whispered as the transmission ended. "This changes everything." "We need to move fast, Tom," Sarah said. "According to the aliens, we have less than a year before this darkness arrives. Maybe much less." Harrison was quiet for a long moment. "Sarah, I need to bring this to the highest levels. This goes beyond marine research. Way beyond. I know, but the aliens warned us about trusting the wrong people. We need to be careful about who we involve." "Agreed. I'm going to contact Admiral Rebecca Foster at Pacific Fleet Command. She has security clearance for extraterrestrial contact protocols. And more importantly, I trust her completely." Sarah felt some relief. Admiral Foster had a reputation for being both brilliant and completely honest. If anyone could handle this situation properly, it would be her. "Tom, we need to return to the site as soon as possible. The aliens said they had knowledge and weapons that might help us. We need to learn whatever they can teach us." 1. Give me 6 hours to make the necessary calls. Don't leave that position until you hear from me." The next 6 hours were the longest of Sarah's life. She spent the time reviewing their recordings with Marcus and James, trying to understand more about what they had seen. The alien technology was far beyond anything humans had developed, but there were patterns they could analyze. "Look at this," James said, pointing to a section of their recording. "The way their crystals move in formation. It's not random. There's a mathematical precision to it." Marcus nodded. "And the energy readings from their central sphere. It's putting out more power than anything we have. But it's completely clean. No radiation. No harmful emissions." Sarah studied the alien symbols they had captured on camera. These writings along their airlock entrance. If we could understand their language, we might be able to learn so much more. Their discussion was interrupted when the communication system chimed. Director Harrison's face appeared on the screen, but this time he wasn't alone. Next to him sat a stern-looking woman in a Navy uniform. "Sarah, this is Admiral Foster," Harrison said. "I've briefed her on your discovery." Admiral Foster leaned forward. "Dr. Chen, what you've found could be the most important discovery in human history. But it also presents us with the greatest threat our species has ever faced." "Yes, Admiral. We understand the gravity of the situation." I'm organizing a joint task force immediately. We'll have military specialists, xenobiologists, linguists, and engineers. But I need your team to return to the site and establish formal communications with these keepers. We're ready to go back down, Admiral. Good. But this time, you won't be going alone. I'm sending down a team of Navy SEALs trained in underwater operations. They'll escort you in a military submarine equipped with advanced recording and communication equipment. Sarah felt a moment of concern. Admiral, the aliens seemed peaceful, but they also seemed fragile. I don't want a heavy military presence to frighten them. Admiral Foster's expression softened slightly. Dr. Chen, I appreciate your concern. The SEALs are there for protection and support, not aggression. If these aliens are telling the truth about an invasion, we need to be prepared for anything. Understood, Admiral. There's something else, Foster continued. We've been monitoring space-based observations since your discovery. Our deep space sensors have detected some unusual activity at the edge of our solar system, things that weren't there a week ago. Sarah felt her blood turn cold. The invasion fleet? We don't know yet. But the timing is troubling. We need to learn everything these aliens can teach us, and we need to learn it fast. 12 hours later, Sarah found herself aboard the USS Times Neptune's Pride Asterisk, a cutting-edge military submarine designed for deep-sea operations. The vessel was 3 times larger than the Times Deep Explorer Times and equipped with technology she had only dreamed of. Commander Jake Mitchell, the submarine's captain, briefed them in the operations room. We have a full xenobiology lab aboard. Advanced communication systems that can translate languages in real time, and defensive capabilities if needed. Lieutenant Sarah Park, the team's linguist, was examining the alien symbols from their recordings. The mathematical basis of their language is fascinating, she said. It seems to be based on dimensional relationships rather than phonetics. If I can crack the basic structure, we might be able to communicate much more effectively. Dr. David Kim, the team's xenobiologist, was studying the recordings of the crystal beings. Their form of existence is completely beyond our current understanding of life. They seem to exist as pure energy held together by some kind of crystalline matrix. As they descended toward the alien vessel, Sarah felt a mixture of excitement and fear. This time, they would have the tools and expertise to truly understand what the aliens were trying to tell them, but they would also be confirming that humanity was facing an enemy that had destroyed an entire advanced civilization. The submarine reached the alien vessel after a 4-hour descent. As they approached the circular entrance, the alien crystals were already waiting for them. Welcome back, friends. From above. The voice was clearer this time, and Sarah realized the aliens had been improving their understanding of human language. We've brought experts who can help us communicate better, Sarah said into their communication system. We want to learn everything you can teach us about the threat that's coming. Good. Time grows short. The darkness moves closer. We have seen their scouts. Lieutenant Park quickly set up her translation equipment. I'm analyzing their communication patterns now. Give me a few minutes to calibrate. Your language. Interesting. Full of emotion and hope. This will help in what comes. Dr. Kim was studying the alien crystals through their advanced sensors. Incredible. They're not just energy beings, they're living computers, each one containing vast amounts of information. We offer knowledge freely, but learning will be difficult. Your minds think differently. Ours. Lieutenant Park looked up from her equipment. I think I can establish a better connection. The translation matrix is starting to work. She made adjustments to their communication system, and suddenly, the alien voice became much clearer, less fragmented. That is much better, the alien said. its voice now flowing smoothly. "We can share knowledge more efficiently now. What can you tell us about this darkness?" Sarah asked. "They call themselves the Devourers. They are not like living beings as you understand them. They consume the life force of entire planets, leaving nothing behind but empty space." The water around their submarine began forming images again, showing the same terrifying visions of empty worlds and vast dark fleets. "They have conquered thousands of worlds. Our people fought them for generations, but we could only delay them, not stop them. When our world fell, we fled here, hoping to find allies who could succeed where we failed." Commander Mitchell leaned forward. "What kind of weapons did you use against them?" "Energy weapons based on crystalline technology. Ships that could move faster than light. Shields that could protect entire planets. But they were not enough." Dr. Kim was taking rapid notes. "How did you power these weapons?" "The same energy that sustains us. The force that binds matter and energy together. What you might call the fundamental force of creation itself." Lieutenant Park was working frantically with her equipment. "They're offering to share technical specifications. The data stream is enormous." "Your people have something we lacked," the alien continued. "Adaptability. Creativity, born from struggle. Our people lived in peace for too long. We forgot how to truly fight." Sarah felt a spark of hope. "You think we might have a chance? Humans have survived ice ages, plagues, wars, natural disasters. Your species knows how to adapt and overcome. With our knowledge and your determination, there might be hope." The alien crystals began moving in complex patterns around their submarine. "We will transfer what knowledge we can. But understand, learning our technology will change your species forever. Are you prepared for this?" Sarah looked at Commander Mitchell, who nodded grimly. "We don't have a choice. If the alternative is extinction, we'll take whatever changes come. Then we begin. But first, you must understand the true nature of your enemy." The images in the water changed, showing the Devourers in detail for the first time. They weren't physical beings in any sense humans could understand. They appeared as vast shadows that consumed light itself, moving between stars like living darkness. They cannot be fought with conventional weapons. Bullets and missiles pass through them harmlessly. Only weapons that affect the fundamental forces of reality can harm them. Dr. Kim looked up from his notes. "How do we build weapons like that?" "We will teach you. But it will require your species to advance technologically by thousands of years in a matter of months. Can your people learn that quickly?" Sarah thought about human ingenuity, about how her species had gone from horse-drawn carriages to spaceflight in less than a century. "If our survival depends on it, yes, we can learn. Then we have work to do. Your planet's defense depends on what happens in the next few months." The alien crystal formation began pulsing in unison, and Lieutenant Park's equipment started recording massive amounts of data. Technical specifications, energy equations, and construction blueprints flowed through their systems faster than human minds could process. "This is incredible, Doctor," Kim breathed. "They're giving us everything. Faster than light travel. Energy weapons. Defensive shields. Even instructions for building artificial intelligence that can help coordinate planetary defense." Commander Mitchell was studying the military applications. "Some of this technology could revolutionize warfare completely. But it'll take massive industrial resources to build. Your governments must work together," the alien voice warned. "The Devourers are counting on your species' tendency to fight among yourselves. Unity is your only hope for survival." Sarah realized the true challenge wasn't just technological. Humanity would need to overcome centuries of political divisions and work together as a single species. "We'll make it work," she said firmly. "Humans are good at coming together when facing a common threat." "We hope this is true," the alien replied, "because the survival of all life in this galaxy may depend on your success." As the data transfer continued, Sarah felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders once again. They were no longer just marine biologists exploring the deep ocean. They had become humanity's ambassadors to an alien civilization, and possibly the key to their species' survival. The next phase of their work would be convincing world leaders to set aside their differences and unite against a threat unlike anything Earth had ever faced. It would require the greatest cooperation in human history, but as Sarah watched the alien crystals sharing their ancient knowledge with humanity, she felt something that surprised her. Confidence. Humans had always been at their best when facing impossible odds. Now they would find out just how far that determination could take them. 3 months had passed since Dr. Sarah Chen's discovery in the Pacific depths, and the world had transformed in ways she could never have imagined. The United Nations Emergency Assembly had been meeting in continuous session, and for the first time in human history, every major world power was working toward a single goal: survival. Sarah stood in the command center of the International Defense Coordination Facility, built in record time in the Nevada desert. Through the massive windows, she could see construction crews working around the clock on humanity's first fleet of crystal-powered spacecraft. The ships looked nothing like the rockets and shuttles humans had built before. Instead, they followed the flowing, organic designs the keepers had shared. Their hulls grown, rather than built, using crystalline technology. "Dr. Chen, we need you in Lab 7, called Dr. Kim, now serving as the head of the Xenotechnology Integration Division. His voice carried a mixture of exhaustion and excitement that had become common among the scientific teams. Sarah made her way through corridors buzzing with activity. Scientists and engineers from every nation worked side by side, sharing knowledge and resources without the usual barriers of nationality or corporate secrecy. The threat of extinction had accomplished what centuries of diplomacy couldn't. Lab 7 housed one of the most important projects: the development of human-keeper hybrid consciousness interfaces. The keepers had explained that their most advanced weapons required a form of biological integration that humans didn't naturally possess. "What's the breakthrough?" Sarah asked as she entered the lab. Lieutenant Park, now leading the communication team, looked up from a complex array of crystalline structures. "We've figured out how to temporarily merge human consciousness with keeper crystal matrices. It's not permanent, but it allows humans to directly control their technology." Dr. Elena Roskov, a neuroscientist who had joined the project from Moscow, was monitoring brain activity readings from volunteers who had tested the interface. "The human nervous system is more adaptable than the keepers expected. We can handle the integration better than they thought possible." Sarah studied the data. "What are the risks?" "Some disorientation, temporary memory gaps, but no permanent damage." "Doctor," Roskov explained. "And the volunteers report incredible experiences. They can perceive reality in ways humans never could before." In a taps, the laboratory door opened, and Admiral Foster entered with Director Harrison and several military officials Sarah didn't recognize. Behind them came someone she hadn't expected to see: President Maria Santos of the Global Defense Council. "Dr. Chen," President Santos said, "I wanted to thank you personally. Your discovery may have saved our species." Sarah felt overwhelmed by the presence of the world's most powerful leaders. "We're just doing our job, Madam President." "You've done far more than that," Admiral Foster interjected. "The technology integration is proceeding faster than anyone thought possible. We have 12 orbital defense platforms operational, with 8 more coming online this week." Director Harrison was studying the consciousness interface equipment. "How soon before we can begin training pilots for the new spacecraft?" Dr. Kim answered. "We're ready to begin immediately. The keepers have provided detailed training protocols. They believe we can have a functional defense fleet within 6 weeks." President Santos nodded grimly. "Which is good, because our deep space sensors show the Devourer fleet will reach the outer solar system in 8 weeks. The room fell silent at this reminder of their deadline. Despite all their progress, they were still racing against time. "There's something else," Admiral Foster continued. "The Keepers have requested to meet with you again. Dr. Chen, they say they have something crucial to share, but they'll only communicate with the original contact team." 2 days later, Sarah found herself once again descending toward the Keeper vessel in the Pacific depths. This time, the submarine was one of the new hybrid designs, powered by crystalline technology and capable of deeper, faster dives than anything previously built. Marcus Rodriguez was piloting again, but now their submarine had a crew of 12, including the most advanced translation and recording equipment ever assembled. Dr. James Wright had been promoted to head of underwater archaeology for Alien Contact, a position that would have seemed absurd 4 months earlier. "They're waiting for us," Marcus reported as they approached the familiar circular entrance. The keeper crystals were indeed arranged in a formation around the entrance, their glow brighter than Sarah had ever seen before. "Welcome back, friends," came the now familiar voice of the Keeper Collective. "Your progress has been remarkable. Your species learns faster than we dared hope." "Thank you," Sarah replied. "Your knowledge has made all the difference." "But Admiral Foster said you had something crucial to share with us." "Yes. We have been watching your preparations, and we believe your species may succeed where ours failed. But there is something about the Devourers you must understand before they arrive." The water around their submarine began forming images, but these were different from the previous visions. Instead of showing Devourer fleets attacking planets, these images showed something much stranger. The Devourers were not always destroyers of life, the Keeper explained. Long ago, they were like us, beings of energy and consciousness exploring the galaxy peacefully. The images showed beautiful crystalline beings, not unlike the Keepers themselves, traveling between stars and sharing knowledge with other species. "What happened to them?" Dr. Wright asked. "They encountered something in the void between galaxies. A force of pure entropy, the opposite of life and creation. It infected them, changed them into what they are now." Sarah felt a chill as she realized the implications. "You're saying they're not evil? They're victims?" "In a sense, yes. The entropy force uses them as tools to spread across the galaxy. It seeks to return all matter and energy to the void from which it came." "Can they be cured?" Dr. Kim asked. "We believed it was impossible. That is why we only fought to delay them, not to heal them. But your species may be different." The images shifted to show human brain patterns compared to alien neural structures. "Human consciousness has something unique. Your capacity for hope, for redemption, for believing that even the worst situations can be improved. This makes you resistant to the entropy force in ways we never were." Sarah began to understand. "You think we might be able to free them from this infection?" "It is possible, but it would require getting close enough to their core consciousness to make contact. No species has ever attempted this and survived." Admiral Foster's voice came through their communication system from the surface. "Dr. Chen, we've been monitoring your conversation. Are the Keepers suggesting we try to cure, rather than destroy the Devourers?" "That seems to be what they're proposing," Sarah replied. "The risk would be enormous," the Keeper warned. "If you fail, your world would be consumed just as surely as if you had fought them conventionally. But if you succeed, you would not only save your own world, but free thousands of other species from an ancient curse." Sarah looked at her teammates. The decision wasn't theirs to make, but she could see the same thought in all their eyes. Humanity had always been defined by its willingness to take impossible risks for the chance of a better outcome. "How would we even attempt something like this?" she asked. "Your consciousness interface technology, combined with our most advanced communication systems, might allow a human mind to make contact with the Devourer collective consciousness. But the person who attempted it would likely not survive." The submarine was quiet for a long moment. Then Dr. Wright spoke up. "What if it wasn't just one person? What if we linked multiple human consciousnesses together through your technology?" "That might work," the Keeper replied slowly. "Human mental resilience is strong, and multiple minds working together could resist the entropy force better than one alone." Sarah felt a plan forming in her mind. "We'd need volunteers. People willing to risk everything for a chance to save both our species and the Devourers. You would need the strongest minds your species can provide," the Keeper warned. "Scientists, philosophers, leaders, artists, people who represent the best of human consciousness." Over the next month, preparations took on a new dimension. While the defensive fleets continued their construction and training, a parallel project began. Dr. Elena Roscoff led a team developing the consciousness-linking technology that would allow human minds to join together and potentially reach out to the Devourer collective. Volunteers came from every field of human achievement: Nobel Prize winners, astronauts, artists, teachers, religious leaders, and philosophers. Each person underwent extensive training with the Keeper technology, learning to expand their consciousness beyond normal human limits. Sarah herself volunteered, despite protests from Admiral Foster and President Santos. "I made first contact with the Keepers," she argued. "I should be part of any attempt to contact the Devourers." When the Devourer fleet finally arrived at the edge of the solar system, humanity was ready with a defense unlike anything ever attempted. The orbital defense platforms were operational. The crystal-powered fleet was deployed, and 50 of humanity's brightest minds were linked together in a consciousness network that spanned the globe. "Devourer ships are entering the outer solar system," reported Commander Mitchell from the USS Times Neptune's Pride *, now serving as the flagship of Earth's space fleet. They're moving toward Neptune's orbit. Through the consciousness link, Sarah could feel the thoughts and emotions of 49 other humans. The experience was overwhelming but also strangely comforting. She was connected to artists who saw beauty in the mathematical patterns of space, scientists who understood the fundamental forces of reality, and leaders who carried the hopes of billions. "Attempting contact now," she announced to the global command network. The linked consciousnesses reached out through space, using Keeper technology to project their combined thoughts toward the approaching Devourer fleet. What they found was worse than they had expected. The Devourer collective consciousness was vast beyond imagining, but it was filled with pain and despair. Thousands of once beautiful species had been absorbed into its structure, their individuality consumed by the entropy force that controlled them. "They're suffering," reported Dr. Lin Wei, a philosopher from Beijing who was part of the consciousness link. "All of them. Every species the entropy has consumed is trapped inside, aware but unable to resist." Sarah felt tears streaming down her face as she experienced the anguish of countless civilizations. But she also felt something else: determination. Human determination to fix things that seemed unfixable. "We can reach them," she said through the link. "I can feel the Keepers too, the ones that were absorbed when their world fell. They're still in there." The consciousness link began to change as the humans worked together. Instead of simply observing the Devourer collective, they began to offer something to it: hope. "Remember what you were before," Sarah projected toward the enslaved minds within the Devourer fleet. "Remember exploration, discovery, joy, wonder." One by one, the other linked minds added their voices. Artists shared visions of beauty, scientists shared the excitement of discovery, leaders shared the satisfaction of helping others, teachers shared the joy of watching minds grow. The Devourer fleet slowed its advance. For the first time in millions of years, the entropy force was meeting resistance from within its own structure. "It's working," reported Dr. Roscoe from the monitoring station. "We're detecting changes in the Devourer energy signatures." But the entropy force was fighting back. Sarah felt its attention turning toward them, and the cold of absolute nothingness began to creep into her mind. "It's trying to absorb us too," warned Dr. Kim through the link. "Let it try," Sarah replied. "We're not running, we're not hiding, and we're not giving up." The linked human consciousnesses began to sing, not with voices but with pure thought and emotion. They sang of Earth's blue skies and warm sunlight, of children laughing, of lovers embracing, of the satisfaction of a job well done. They sang of hope in the darkest times, of courage in the face of impossible odds, of the human refusal to surrender. Even when all seemed lost, the entropy force recoiled from their song. It had consumed thousands of species, but it had never encountered minds that refused to despair, that found hope even in the face of certain destruction. Within the Devourer collective, something began to change. The absorbed consciousnesses began to remember themselves, to resist the entropy that had enslaved them. The Keepers, trapped for so long, started to break free. "The Devourer ships are changing course," reported Commander Mitchell. "They're moving away from Earth." But Sarah knew the real victory was happening on a deeper level. Through the consciousness link, she could feel the entropy force weakening as more and more absorbed minds broke free from its control. "You have shown us something we had forgotten," came a new voice through the link. It was the Keeper Collective, speaking from within the Devourer fleet. "Hope is stronger than despair. Life is stronger than entropy." The Devourer fleet began to transform before their eyes. The dark, consuming ships reformed into brilliant crystalline vessels. The entropy force, weakened by the defection of its slaves, retreated back to the void between galaxies. "They're free," Sarah whispered, collapsing from exhaustion as the consciousness link dissolved. Across the globe, the 50 volunteers who had risked their minds to save 2 species were slowly recovering. All had survived, though many would need time to fully process what they had experienced. In the weeks that followed, the freed Devourers, now calling themselves the Reborn, worked with humanity and the Keepers to heal the damage done across the galaxy. Worlds that had been stripped of life were restored. Species that had been absorbed were given new bodies and allowed to rebuild their civilizations. Sarah stood once again on the deck of the Time's Horizon's Edge asterisk. But this time, she wasn't looking down into Earth's oceans. She was gazing up at the stars, where humanity's first interstellar diplomatic mission was preparing to depart. "Hard to believe it all started with some unusual sonar readings," Marcus said, joining her at the ship's railing. "Not really," Sarah replied with a smile. "Humans have always been curious about what's out there. We just finally found something that was curious about us too." Above them, the crystalline ships of humanity's new allies sparkled against the star-filled sky. The galaxy was no longer a dangerous place where species fought for survival. It had become a community where different forms of consciousness could work together to build something better than any of them could achieve alone. And at the heart of that community was a species from a small blue planet who had proven that hope, determination, and the refusal to give up could overcome even the oldest evils in the universe. Humanity had not only survived their first contact with alien life, they had helped heal a wound that had been bleeding across the galaxy for millions of years. As Sarah watched the stars, she knew this was just the beginning. The universe was vast and full of wonders waiting to be discovered, and humanity, with their new allies beside them, was ready for whatever came next.